Imagine a neighborhood so pristine it could grace the cover of a magazine, lawns trimmed to perfection, houses painted in soft pastels, and children's laughter echoing through tree-lined streets. Now imagine that beneath this idyllic surface lies a web of rules so suffocating, so invasive, that a simple knock on your door from a loved one could land them in handcuffs. This is Maple Grove, a suburban paradise turned prison, where the illusion of order masks a chilling reality of control. My name is Daniel Harper, and this is the story of how my family and I unraveled the tyranny of our homeowners association and fought to reclaim our home, our freedom, and our community. When my wife, Emily, and I first drove into Maple Grove 3 years ago, we thought we'd found our forever home. The real estate agent had painted a glowing picture, a tight-knit community with top-notch schools, a sparkling community pool, and neighbors who wave from their porches. At 38, with a career as a state prosecutor under my belt and 2 young kids, Sophie, 7, and Liam, 4, I was ready for stability. Emily, a freelance graphic designer, loved the idea of a quiet place to raise our family. The house itself was a dream, a 2-story colonial with a wraparound porch nestled on a cul-de-sac called Willow Lane. We signed the papers without a second thought, but the cracks in the facade appeared almost immediately. On MOVYing day, as we unloaded boxes from the truck, a woman approached a stall, impeccably dressed, with a clipboard in hand and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Welcome to Maple Grove," she said, her voice clipped. "I'm Patricia Voss, president of the Maple Grove Homeowners Association. I'll need you to read the bylaws tonight. We have standards here." She handed me a binder thicker than a law textbook, its pages brimming with rules. No basketball hoops in driveways, no exterior paint colors outside the approved palette, no unannounced VY ciders without prior HOA approval. I laughed it off at first. Surely no one enforced this nonsense with any real zeal. I was wrong. Patricia wasn't just the HOA president. She was the puppet master of Maple Grove. Her presence loomed over every decision, her word law. She lived in a sprawling mansion at the end of Elm Street, its windows always dark, as if she spent her days watching us through unseen cracks. Neighbors whispered about her how she'd once fined a widow do law 500 for planting tulips instead of daffodils, how she'd banned a family's dog for barking too loudly. But they whispered quietly, their eyes darting, as if afraid she'd hear them through the wind. The trouble began 6 months after we moved in. My brother, Matt, a laid-back mechanic with a penchant for showing up unannounced, decided to surprise us one Saturday afternoon. He pulled into our driveway in his beat-up pickup, the engine rumbling loud enough to turn heads. Sophie and Liam raced outside, squealing as Matt scooped them up, his laughter filling the air. Emily and I followed, grinning until I saw Patricia striding across the street, her heels clicking like a metronome. "Mr. Harper," she said, her tone icy. "All VY ciders must be registered with the HOA 48 hours in advance. It's in the bylaws, page 17, section 3. I'll let it slide this time, but consider this your warning." She handed me a yellow slip, a formal notice of VY olation, and turned on her heel, Leah VYing us stunned. Matt chuckled, brushing it off. "What's her deal? She act like she owns the place." I forced a smile, but unease settled in my gut. That night, I flipped through the binder, my prosecutor's instincts kicking in. The rules were absurdly detailed down to the acceptable height of grass blades, no more than 2.5 inches, and the penalties were steep. Fine starting at due law 100, escalating to liens on your property for repeat offenses. There was even a clause about community harmony, vague enough to justify anything Patricia wanted. I told Emily it was ridiculous but manageable. We'd keep our heads down, follow the rules, and avoid trouble. That plan lasted exactly 3 months. It was a crisp October evening when Matt came by again, this time without warning, as was his habit. He'd just finished a long shift at the garage and wanted to drop off a toy car he'd fixed up for Liam. The kids were asleep, and Emily was in the kitchen sketching a new design when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Matt, grease-stained and grinning, holding the little red car. "Thought the little man might like this," he said. Before I could invite him in, headlights flashed across the lawn. A police cruiser rolled up, followed by Patricia's sleek black SUV. Two officers stepped out, their faces grim, while Patricia emerged behind them, her expression triumphant. "That's him," she said, pointing at Matt. "Unregistered VY cider, second offense." "Hold on," I said, stepping forward. "This is my brother. He's not trespassing's family. Rules are rules, mister." "Harper," Patricia replied, her voice dripping with satisfaction. "You were warned." The officers didn't hesitate. They grabbed Matt, twisting his arms behind his back as he protested. "Dan, what the hell is this?" he shouted, his confusion turning to anger. I lunged forward, but Emily pulled me back, her eyes wide with fear. "Sir, step aside," one officer barked, cuffing Matt and VYing him toward the cruiser. Neighbors peeked through curtains, their silhouettes flickering in the glow of porch lights, but no one came out. Patricia stood there, arms crossed, watching like a queen overseeing an execution. They took Matt to the station, charging him with trespassing, a misdemeanor cooked up by Patricia's influence over the local police. I bailed him out that night, my hands shaking as I signed the paperwork. He was furious but unharmed, cracking dark jokes about HOA jail. I tried to laugh, but the weight of it hit me. This wasn't just petty bureaucracy. This was power run amok, and it was targeting my family. The fallout came fast. 2 days later, Emily got a call from her sister, Rachel, who lived an hour away. Rachel was 8 months pregnant and had been VYing contractions, nothing serious yet, but enough to worry her. She wanted to stay with us for a few days, just in case. I hesitated, remembering Patricia's rules, but Emily insisted. "She's family, Dan. We can't let that woman dictate who we help." Rachel arrived the next afternoon, her face pale, but smiling as she hugged Emily. I'd barely registered her with the HOA, submitted the form online, figuring 48 hours was a guideline, not a guillotine. That night, as we sat around the dinner table, the doorbell rang. My stomach dropped. Through the window, I saw the same police cruiser, Patricia's SUV, parked behind it. "Mrs. Harper," Patricia said when Emily opened the door, "your guest isn't properly registered. The form requires board approval, which takes 72 hours. You violate the bylaws again." "She's my sister," Emily snapped, her voice trembling. "She's pregnant and needs us." "That's irrelevant," Patricia said, nodding to the officers. They pushed past me, grabbing Rachel's arm as she stood frozen in the kitchen. "This is insane," I shouted, blocking their path. "She's not a criminal." "Step aside, sir, or you'll be arrested too," an officer warned. Rachel, clutching her belly, started to cry as they dragged her outside. Emily screamed, chasing after them, while Sophie and Liam woke up, their wails piercing the chaos. I followed, pleading with the officers, but they shoved Rachel into the cruiser and sped off. Then it got worse. As we scrambled to follow in our car, Patricia blocked the driveway with her SUV, demanding we fill out an emergency exit form for Rachel's medical situation. "It's protocol," she said, her voice maddeningly calm. Emily was hysterical, pounding on the window while I dialed 911. Rachel's contractions had intensified in the back of the cruiser. She was in labor, and the delay could cost her everything. By the time we reached the hospital, Rachel was in distress, her baby's heart rate dropping. The doctors rushed her into surgery, and for hours, we sat in the waiting room, Emily sobbing into my shoulder, the kids clinging to us. Rachel served VY-VED, delivering a healthy girl named Ava, but the trauma left scars. She'd been handcuffed while in labor, humiliated by a system that cared more about rules than human lives. I held Emily that night as she whispered, "We can't let this happen to anyone else." That was the breaking point. As a prosecutor, I'd spent 15 years upholding justice, dismantling corruption, and protecting the vulnerable. Now it was personal. I dug into Maple Grove's HOA records, starting with the bylaws Patricia wielded like a scepter. What I found was a gold mine of illegality. The HOA's incorporation papers were outdated, filed improperly with the county a decade ago. Half their rules, like the VY Cider registration, lacked legal backing, relying on intimidation rather than authority. And the fines? A chunk of the money wasn't accounted for in their public financials. I started documenting everything. The arrest reports, the threatening letters Patricia sent. One arrived the day after Rachel's ordeal, finding us due law $1,000 for disrupting community peace, and the neighbors' whispered complaints. There was Mr. Jenkins, a retired vet, fined for flying an American flag. The Garcias, whose son's lemonade stand was shut down for unapproved commerce. And Mrs. Patel, harassed for painting her mailbox teal instead of beige. Patricia's reign wasn't just strict, it was a calculated campaign of control. Emily and I rallied the neighbors, hosting secret meetings in our basement. At first, they were hesitant, fear etched into their faces. "She'll ruin us," Mrs. Patel whispered, clutching her tea. But as stories poured out, fines, threats, even a family forced to sell their home after Patricia's lean sway found strength in numbers. We formed a coalition, calling ourselves the Maple Grove Resistance, a name Matt suggested with a grin. Armed with EVY Denke, I filed a formal complaint with the county, requesting an audit of the HOA's operations. I also sued Patricia and the board for abuse of power, citing Rachel's arrest as a violation of CIVYL rights. The legal wheels turned slowly, but the community's momentum grew. We circulated a petition for HOA reform, gathering over 200 signatures in a week. Local news caught wind of Ida, a reporter named Claire Nguyen interviewed us, her story airing on Channel 5 with the headline, "Suburban Nightmare, When HOAs Go Too Far." Patricia fought back hard. She hired a slick attorney, countersued us for defamation, and doubled down on enforcement. One night, someone slashed our tires. Emily found a note tucked under the windshield wiper. "Back off, or it gets worse." The kid started VYing nightmares, Sophie asking if the mean lady would take us away. I installed security cameras, my anger simmering into resolve. The audit was our turning point. In March 2025, right around now, as I write this, the county released its findings. The HOA had misappropriated $50,000 in fines, with Patricia's personal accounts showing suspicious deposits. Her VY cider rules were deemed unenforceable, a violation of state property rights. And the arrests? The police chief, a golf buddy of Patricia's, faced an internal VYEW for misuse of authority. The EVY Denke was damning. The board crumbled under the pressure. Patricia resigned in disgrace, fleeing Maple Grove as lawsuits piled. The pores included, settled out of court for enough to cover Rachel's medical bills and then some. The remaining members stepped down, and we held an emergency election. Emily ran for president, winning in a landslide. Under her leadership, the HOA rewrote its bylaws, prioritizing transparency and resident input. Fines were capped, rules simplified, and the VY cider policy? Gone. Maple Grove is healing now. The lawns are still manicured, but the air feels lighter. Neighbors linger on porches, unafraid to speak. Last week, Matt dropped by unannounced with a pizza, and no one batted an eye. Sophie and Liam play outside again, their laughter a balm to our wounds. Rachel VY sits often, little Ava toddling behind her, a reminder of what we fought for. But the scars remain. I think about the families who suffered silently before us, the ones who couldn't fight back. Our story isn't just about one corrupt HOA warning. Power unchecked festers, even in the prettiest places. It's up to us, the people, to hold it accountable. So I ask you, what would you do if your home became a battleground? Would you comply, or would you rise? This is Daniel Harper, signing off from Maple Grove, a place we took back, one rule at a time. Share your story. Join the fight, because justice isn't given, it's claimed. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY Deo with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY Deo.